Hello everyone, I welcome you all to free crash course for competitive exams held by VIRAT HINDUSTAN SANGHAM in association with Manifest IAS Bengaluru. So this is a program by Sri Ravishankar sir, who is a state educational convener for VHS Karnataka and also president of Good Neighbors India NGO. This program, as you all know, is inspired by Dr. SUBRAMANIAN Swamiji, and the inauguration was held on 28th of January. You can watch this program online on the YouTube channel of VIRAT HINDUSTAN SANGHAM. Here is the link, and also YouTube channel of UDAYA News. Here is the link. Okay, and I am the chief mentor of your program. Here is my name, DHANUSH Kumar. I have been teaching for civil services aspirants for around 5 years now. Okay, so we are doing this program in association with UDAYA News and Manifest IAS Bengaluru. So here is your timetable along with syllabus. So we have started with polity, then we move ahead and conclude with science, and the program ends on 1st of April. So you can join the Telegram channel of VHS Education Forum by clicking this link. Here is the link. You can search on Telegram app by as VHS Education, or you can also join by scanning this QR code. So how to make use of this program? I have been telling again and again. Veterans can use this as a revision program, and freshers can use this program to get a gist of what they are supposed to study for the exams they are going to appear. Okay, today we are going to continue the remaining chunk of parliament along with judiciary. Okay, so let us begin the class. Okay, yesterday I have spoken till ineffectiveness of parliamentary control. So today I will speak about position of Rajya Sabha. What is the position of Rajya Sabha with respect to Lok Sabha? So where all it is equal, where all it is unequal, and where all it has special powers. Okay. So where all it has equal powers, where all Rajya Sabha has equal powers with Lok Sabha. So with respect to, as you all know, with respect to introduction of ordinary bills can be introduced in either of the house, even constitutional amendment bill. So also election and impeachment of president, Rajya Sabha has equal powers. Also with respect to vice president. Also we have approval of ordinances. Ordinances can be approved, should be approved by both the houses before they become an act. So what is an ordinance? I have already told in previous classes. Okay. So along with this, even the proclamation of all types of emergency, Rajya Sabha has equal powers with Lok Sabha. So where all it has unequal status with Lok Sabha. So here money bill can be introduced only in Lok Sabha, and also no confidence motion has to be introduced only in Lok Sabha. Along with that, passing of demand for grants. What is demand for grants? I already told in yesterday class. So demand for grants can only be passed by Lok Sabha. Okay. Next is with respect to money bill, the Rajya Sabha has limited powers, and even to whether to the bill is money bill or not can be decided only by the Lok Sabha speaker. And also joint sitting can be joint sitting is chaired by only the speaker of Lok Sabha. These are some of the provisions where Rajya Sabha has lesser powers with respect to Lok Sabha. Where do Rajya Sabha has special powers? Special powers means more power than Lok Sabha. So state list. So whenever the parliament has to make a law in the state list, so you know parliament's power is limited to either union list or concurrent list, but not state list. But if the parliament has to make a law on state list, only the Rajya Sabha can authorize. Why? Because it is the House of States. And also introduction of new All India services. Presently we have 3 All India services, that is IAS, IPS and Indian Forest Service. So if we have to introduce, suppose let's say All India Judicial Service, only the Rajya Sabha can approve it. And also even the removal of Vice President can be done only by Rajya Sabha and approved by Lok Sabha. So, and also if suppose when the emergency, this provision is, suppose when the emergency is proclaimed and Lok Sabha is not in session, so Rajya Sabha can approve the emergency, meanwhile pending the approval of Lok Sabha. So here are the special provisions of Rajya Sabha. So why do we need Rajya Sabha in first place? So it checks the hasty and defective acts. So certain acts get passed in Lok Sabha due to the majority of the ruling party. However, if it is a hasty or defective act, Rajya Sabha tames it. Also, it has provision for nomination of special members, 12 members. So, people in various fields who have excelled in various fields can be represented in Rajya Sabha. So, this is with respect to special powers of Rajya Sabha. So, role of Parliament. What is the role of Parliament? Many roles are there. Okay. First is legislative power. Legislative power means making laws. LAWS. So, that is the most primary power of the Parliament. So, they can make laws with respect to Union list 98 subjects and concurrent list 52 subjects. Okay. Next is, so if they also they can delegate the power to the government. So delegated legislation. What is delegated legislation? So I said law making power is the prerogative of Parliament. So they make the skeleton law. They make the skeleton law, and to fill the intricacies, that is in detail, it is details of the law, it is delegated to the government. Details of the law is filled by the government. Skeleton of the law is passed by the Parliament. That is what meant by delegated legislation. So next comes the executive power. What are the executive power of the Parliament? So they can question the executive in the 0 hour, question hour and various other instruments. So that is with respect to the executive power. And also the ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. So the ministers are collectively responsible to the lower house. So this is also a executive power. So they can remove the executive by passing no confidence motion, by rejecting a money bill, or by rejecting the motion of thanks. Motion of thanks, who gives the thanks to the, who gives the speech? First president gives the speech, and to president's speech they give motion of thanks. Okay, next is financial powers. So no tax can be levied or collected except the authority of the Parliament. So whatever the tax, the first of all it is the Parliament which has to authorize. So also the Parliament scrutinizes the financial spending. So whatever the spending, the Parliament scrutinizes via various committees. Public Account Committee is a major, plays a major role in this direction. Okay. Next is they have budgetary control. Budgetary control, passing of demand of grant, demand for grants. That is also a financial control. Next is constitutional powers. So constitutional powers means, so they pass the Constitutional Amendment Act. So Parliament is the sole authority which has the power to pass the Constitutional Amendment Bill. State legislature doesn't have. So that is the constitutional power. Judicial power. What is the judicial power? It can impeach the president. It can remove the vice president, and also it can remove the judges of the Supreme Court and High Court, and even the election commissioners. Also electoral power. What is the electoral powers? So they elect the president and vice president, and also the speaker and deputy chairman, and also the deputy speaker. That is the electoral power of Parliament. So what are some other powers also are there? So parliament forms the highest deliberative body in the country. What is highest deliberative body? So deliberation means discussion. So any issue happens, which is the highest body which discusses the issue, it is the parliament, not the courts. Okay. So it approves the three types of emergency: national emergency, state emergency, and also the financial emergency. Everything is approved by the parliament. So these are some of the powers of the role of the parliament. Next is parliamentary privileges. So the members of the parliament have collective privileges and also individual privileges. So what do you mean by collective privileges? Just because they are member of parliament, they enjoy certain privileges, and also individually also they enjoy certain privileges. So privileges means special rights, immunities and exemptions. So special rights, immunities and exceptions enjoyed by the members of the parliament is called as privileges. So the constitution speaks about the parliamentary privileges. It is given in the constitution itself. Okay, there are two kinds of privileges, that is collective privilege and also individual privilege. So collective privilege means what? What are the provisions under collective privilege? So it is enjoyed by the members collectively, parliament as a whole. So the parliament has the right to publish its report. So whatever the reports, debates and proceedings, it has the right to publish. That is one of the privilege. So it can exclude strangers from the sitting. So secret sitting, the strangers can be excluded. And also it can regulate its the parliament can regulate its own procedure. So rules of procedure, how the parliament is carried out, the parliament itself will regulate. No other body can say direct it. And also it can direct the what it can do. So it can punish the members as well as outsiders for breach of privilege. So if you malign the parliament, if you do something which is against the interest of the parliament, you will be held for breach of privilege. So any members and also the courts are prohibited to inquire into the privileges of the parliament, proceedings of the house. So courts cannot inquire what is happening in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. These are certain collective privileges. So what is the collective privileges done? What are the individual privileges? Members individually. So suppose I become a member of parliament, individually I enjoy certain privileges. So if I become a member of parliament, I cannot be arrested before 40 days before the beginning of a session and 40 days after the conclusion of session. However, this is limited only to civil cases, not criminal cases. Okay, we have, and suppose I am a member of parliament, I have freedom of speech. I can talk whatever I want in the parliament, and no court can inquire into that. So also individual privileges is, suppose I am a member, so I am exempted from jury service. Suppose the court calls me to give evidence for something which I have seen. I can say I won't come because I have parliament session in pending. So I have to attend the pending. So breach of privilege and contempt of the house. This is a very important thing. So when any individual or authority disregards or attacks the privilege, rights and immunities of the member or the house collectively, then it is called as breach of privilege. So breach of privilege and also contempt are different things. So what is the difference? Okay, so normally a breach of privilege may amount to contempt. So they are generally used interchangeably. However, there is a subtle difference. Suppose I said there are collective privileges and individual privileges. If these privileges are breached, then it is called as a breach of privilege. Or then what is contempt? So you malign the parliament. You say that you give unsubstantiated allegations. You make unsubstantiated allegations against the parliament. Then it may be called as a contempt of house. So you may be summoned and punished by the parliament. So contempt of house, an example is a legitimate order of house. Suppose breach of privilege, example is a legitimate order of the house. If you disobey, that is a breach of privilege. So that is a contempt of house. Suppose a legitimate parliament makes a legitimate order. So they say an order is given by the parliament. So if that is not followed, then it is a contempt of court. Similarly, similar to the contempt of court. So contempt of house is similar to contempt of court. Contempt of court is what? So the court asks someone to deposit 1 lakh rupees. If they don't deposit, so then that can be held as contempt of court. Which act for the courts? It is 1971 Contempt of Court Act. With respect to house, there is no act. They themselves take a call with respect to the contempt. Okay. So next is, what are the sources of privilege? First source is the constitution itself. Constitution itself is the source. Then which article? Article 105. Article 105 is the source for the privileges in the constitution. And also with respect to apart from constitution, various laws made by the parliament, that is also a source of the various laws made by the parliament, that is also source of the privileges. And also rules of both the house. So rules of procedure is framed. Each house has its own rules of procedure. That is also a source of privilege. Likewise, we have parliamentary conventions, judicial interpretations as a source of privilege. So next is sovereignty of parliament. So in India, parliament is sovereign. Is parliament sovereign? No, it is the constitution which is sovereign. However, in UK, it is the parliament which is sovereign because they don't have a written constitution. UK constitution is unwritten constitution. Okay. So what is the sovereignty of parliament in UK? So the parliament can make any law in UK. They can amend anything. Sorry. They can amend anything. Then even there is no concept like basic structure in UK. They can amend and pass a law on any subject. Okay. However, in India, sovereignty of parliament is limited by written nature of constitution. The constitution is having a written nature. That is why the concept of basic structure is there. That is also a limitation on sovereignty of parliament. And also federal system of government. So parliament power is limited only to union list and concurrent list. The state governments have power, state legislatures have power over state list. That is also a limitation on the sovereignty of the parliament. Had it been unitary, then parliament would have been sovereign. So next is system of judicial review. So whatever the laws framed in the constitution, framed by the parliament, if it is unconstitutional, then judiciary can repeal it. So parliament is not sovereign, it is subject to judicial review. Next is fundamental rights. So fundamental rights act as a limitation on the parliament. So certain fundamental rights cannot be taken away by the parliament. That is also a limitation. So okay. So last concept is in the chapter is allocation of seats. How the seats are allocated in the state legislative among the states for the Lok Sabha and also Rajya Sabha. I already discussed how the seats are allocated in Lok Sabha, how the seats are allocated in Rajya Sabha. That is based on population. Okay. So the highest seats are allocated to Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh has 31 seats in Rajya Sabha and only 80 seats in Lok Sabha, highest in India. However, states like Nagaland, Mizoram has only 1 seat in Rajya Sabha and 1 seat in Lok Sabha, minimal representation. First speaker of Lok Sabha and chairman of Rajya Sabha. So first speaker of Lok Sabha is, as I already told, it is G.V. Mavlankar. Very important for your prelims perspective, especially lower level exams, right? Okay. So who is the first chairman? Who was the first chairman? That is, who is the first vice president of India? So it is Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. Okay, he is the first chairman of Rajya Sabha. Okay. Next is the articles. So what are the articles with respect to Parliament? So the articles start from Article 79 and goes up to Article 123. So these are the articles with respect to the Parliament. Next, we are going to move to the parliamentary committees. Okay, we are going to move towards the parliamentary committees. Okay, so what is the meaning of parliamentary committee? I already discussed what is cabinet committee. So members of parliament, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, if they form a committee, so then that is a parliamentary committee. So there are two types of committee. One is the standing committee, another is the ad hoc committee. What is a standing committee? It is a permanent committee. So what is ad hoc committee? It is formed whenever there is a need and later dissolved. So the committee, what is meant by a committee? I already discussed. Okay. So accordingly, a parliamentary committee means a committee that is appointed or elected by the House or nominated by Speaker or Chairman. This is the definition given in your standard source. So it is appointed or elected by the House or nominated by Speaker or Chairman. So it works under the direction of Speaker or Chairman. It presents its report to House or Speaker. So this is the definition or the meaning given in your standard book. Next is the classification. Already told it is there are two types. One is the standing committee, another is the ad hoc committee. So what are the standing committees? We have financial committees. So all these are standing committees. Financial committee, public accounts committee. So to begin with, we are going to discuss public account committee, later on estimates committee, committee on public undertakings. These are financial committees. So departmental standing committees. So what is departmental standing committees? So departmental standing committees are committees which are attached to each department. So this government has many ministries and departments. So parliament committees, each committee will look after or monitor one particular department. So those are the departmental standing committees. Okay, first we will discuss what is Public Accounts Committee. So this committee was formed after Government of India Act 1919. How many members are there? There are 22 members, 15 members from Lok Sabha and 7 members from Rajya Sabha. And the chairman of the committee will always be a member of Lok Sabha. A Rajya Sabha member cannot be a chairman of Public Accounts Committee. So the members are elected based on proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. I already discussed what is proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. So similar, it is used in vice presidential election. Similarly, the same method is used for forming of Public Accounts Committee. So 22 members are elected. So a minister cannot be a member of this committee, and also the chairman is appointed by the speaker. So among the who can become the chairman, it is only the member of Lok Sabha. Okay. So after 1967 there is a convention. What is this convention? The convention says only the members of Lok Sabha, earlier what used to happen, the ruling party or the party which has formed the government used to nominate the person from their party as chairman. However, from 1967, a convention has developed. What is this convention? So opposition members are elected as chairman of Public Accounts Committee. So what is the function of Public Accounts Committee? The functions are very, very important. So the functions, so they examine the appropriation and financial accounts. You already know what is financial account and appropriation account. So appropriation account means what the money is taken out of consolidated fund of India. Financial account means money which comes to government of India. So both of these are examined. Both of these are examined by whom? The Public Accounts Committee. So they also examine the audit report of CAG. So CAG is Comptroller and Audit General. This office monitors or audits the accounts of both central and state government. So the report is given to Public Accounts Committee. He acts as a friend and guide for the Public Accounts Committee. Then the Public Accounts Committee takes a call. So your CG, 2G scam, coal scam, all these were brought to limelight by the Public Accounts Committee. Okay. So next is, so it also examines the accounts of state corporations and trade concerns. State corporations. What are state corporations? So that is majorly this companies owned by the government. So that doesn't mean PSUs. So companies which are owned by the government, those accounts are also examined by the Public Accounts Committee. Next is, so it considers the audit report with respect to stocks and stores. So this is not very important. So next comes, is the Public Accounts Committee effective? So there are many criticisms with respect to Public Accounts Committee. So let us look at what are the criticisms. So it is not concerned with the policy issue. It just sees how much money is spent, whether it has been spent judicially. Policy behind the money which is being spent will not be discussed. It conducts a post-mortem kind of a exercise. Once the money is dispersed, it will say it has been spent unjudiciously. So once the money is spent, nothing can be done. So it is kind of a post-mortem work. Okay. It cannot intervene in the matters of day-to-day administration. Public Accounts Committee cannot intervene in the matters of day-to-day administration. These are some of the criticisms of Public Accounts Committee. Next comes Estimates Committee. So this committee, they estimate the finances of the government of India. So few years back there was a direct question in UPSC mains. What is Estimates Committee? So this origin can be traced to 1921. So the membership, how many members are there? There are 30 members. Totally there are 30 members in this committee, and all the 30 members belong to Lok Sabha only. Rajya Sabha do not have representation in this. So even these members are elected by proportional representation by means of single transferable vote, and the chairman is as usual appointed by the speaker. So what does this function do? Say they estimates included. So the function of the committee is to examine the estimates. So examine the estimates included in the budget and suggest economies in public expenditure. So they suggest to the government to spend the money judicially, economically. So that one suggestion is given by Estimates Committee. Also they examine the estimates. So whatever the estimates included, so yesterday budget happened, it includes how much money is going to be spent in another half a year or another 1 year. That estimate is also examined by this committee. So and also so few detailed functions. So what are the detailed functions? So to report the economies and improvements in the organization, to report on the economies as the money being spent judicially. That is done by this estimates committee. So it also suggests alternative policy. So this your public account committee doesn't suggest alternative policy. However, the estimates committee suggests alternative policies. So it also the form, see these estimates. So the estimates of the expenditure is monitored by this committee. So this committee also gives the form. So in what form the estimates is to be presented to the government, in what form, like whether it has to be presented in a particular form, what is that format, how the division is done, revenue account, capital account, how the division has to be done. So the form of the expenditure, the form in which the expenditure is given, the form in which estimates is given to the government or the parliament is also determined by estimates committee. So the effectiveness, or how effective is this estimates committee, this is also important. So the criticism is it determines the estimates only after, it determines the estimates like how much money is going to be spent. That estimate is determined only after budget is voted, not before that. So it is also a kind of post-mortem work. So it cannot question the policy laid down. So policy behind the estimate cannot be, policy behind the expenditure cannot be questioned. Next is, so its recommendation are only advisory, not binding. So it can only advise to the parliament, cannot give binding recommendation. That is also a drawback. So next comes your committee on public undertakings. So what are public undertakings? Your PSUs, public sector undertakings. So now the government is hell bent on privatizing all the PSUs. So they are going to monetize or disinvest the money out of the public sector undertakings. So committee on public undertakings, what this committee does, how many members are there? So there are 22 members like the public accounts committee. So 22 members, 15 from Lok Sabha, 7 from Rajya Sabha. So similar composition. So they are constituted every year and also same procedure. So the head is also the head of the committee is appointed by the speaker, and the head of the committee is mostly a Lok Sabha member, not and Rajya Sabha member cannot be appointed as a head. I told one thing, one change in the concept which I told. Public accounts committee chairman can be either from Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. However, public undertakings committee head can only be from Lok Sabha. A Rajya Sabha member cannot head the public undertakings committee. Okay, so this is with respect to public undertaking committee. Okay, what are the functions of the public undertakings committee? What functions does this committee do? Okay, so it examines the reports and accounts of public undertakings. So accounts, how much money is spent, how much money is given in the budget, everything is examined by this particular committee. So it also examines the CAG report on public undertakings. CAG gives report on public undertakings, that is also examined by this committee. So also it examines the efficiency of public undertakings. Many public undertakings are inefficient. There is too much wastage of resources. That is also examined by this particular committee. Okay, so the committee cannot examine certain aspects. The committee cannot examine. What are these aspects? So matters of major government policy. So major government policy, this committee cannot intervene. Okay, so what are the certain ineffectiveness of public undertakings committee? Certain things the public undertaking committee so in certain areas is ineffective. So what is the ineffectiveness? So it just takes up 10 to 12 public undertakings per year. So there are around 200 PSUs, only 10 to 12 are examined every year. So it goes like that. So every committee is examined over a period of 20 years. So not one particular PSU will be examined every year. So it goes in a circle. First year 10 PSUs, next year next 10 PSUs, the next to next year the other 10 PSUs. It goes like that. So there is no continuous monitoring. This is also one of the drawback. Next comes departmental standing committees. I already said what is a departmental standing committee. So it is which is attached to one particular department. So a parliamentary committee, parliamentary members who monitor one particular department, that is called as departmental standing committees. So how many departmental standing committees are there? There are 24 departmental standing committees. Totally there are 24 departmental standing committees. So what are the functions of this? So there are committees under Rajya Sabha and committees under Lok Sabha. So before going into that, so what are the functions of this departmental standing committees? So they try to secure more accountability to the executive, more accountability of the executive, because the departmental standing committees are there. The functioning is continuously monitored by the functioning of the government is continuously monitored by the parliament. Without these committees, the functioning is not monitored. So the effectiveness of the government in turn increases. Okay. So there are 21 committees from Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha 21 DRSCs, we call it as DRSCs in short form, and 10 from Rajya Sabha. So what are the functions of each of these standing committees? So demand for grants. So each department, each ministry demands certain grants every year from the Consolidated Fund of India, that is budget. So that is examined by these committees. Each committee examines the particular department, and also these examine the bills pertaining to particular ministries or departments. So suppose agriculture ministry farm bill is introduced. This bill is examined by a departmental committee which is concerned with agriculture. So particular department, any bill is introduced, particular departmental standing committee is going to examine that particular bill. So these are certain functions. So there are certain limitations as well of this standing DRSCs. So they don't consider matters of day-to-day administration. So that is one of the drawback. They don't consider matters of day-to-day administration. It is like long-term monitoring, not on the daily basis. Okay. So what are the departmental standing committees under Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha? Though they don't ask directly what are the committees which are going to fall under Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, you can have a look. So certain committees. So committees under Lok Sabha. What are the committees under Lok Sabha? So it is Committee on Agriculture, Committee on Information Technology, Committee on Defense, Committee on Energy, Committee on External Affairs. Many other committees fall under Lok Sabha. So what are the committees under Rajya Sabha? Committee on Commerce, Committee on Home Affairs, Committee on Human Resource Development, Committee on Industry. So these are the committees under the Rajya Sabha. Okay. So next we will move further. So with respect to demand for grants, there is a particular procedure how this departmental related standing committees proceeds. So once the budget is introduced, after the general discussion, the particular provisions, particular departments provisions are taken up by particular DRSCs. So they are going to discuss, they are going to give amendments, they are going to report, they are going to send report to the parliament. So the committee shall consider the demand for grants, and also they make their report, and give it back to the parliament. Okay. Next comes specific committees. Committees to inquire. So what are the committees to inquire? So before this, let us also examine. Suppose a bill goes to the departmental related standing committee. A normal bill is given to departmental related standing committee. How the bill is proceeded? So they proceed by examining clause by clause. Each clause of the bill is examined. So they what do? They also give what are the amendments that can be brought about. What are the provisions which can be removed on that also. These standing committees report. So what are the merits of standing committee? So these merits means, so they are devoid of any party bias. There is no party bias. They examine the bills and also demand for grants without any bias. So the procedure adopted by them is flexible. So in the parliament there is too much members, too much chaos. So there is no flexible. The proceedings are rigid. So however, in these committees the procedure is flexible. Okay, they make the parliamentary control on the executive real. That is, the Lok Sabha, this government is responsible to the parliament. You all know that. So how this responsibility is exercised in reality? These committees make the responsibility, turn the responsibility into a reality by monitoring the government. So there are I already told there are specific committees. So what are the specific special committees? So we have committees to inquire. So inquire into various things. Committee on petitions. So the public submit the petitions. So those petitions are examined. Those petitions are examined by committee on petitions. And also you have committee of privileges, which discusses the issue of breach of privilege. And also ethics committee. There is a ethics committee. What does this ethics committee do? They generally encourage the members or the parliamentarians to follow ethical principles in conduct. Next, we have committees to scrutinize and control. What are these? What are the committees under this? So committee on governmental assurances. Government on the floor, that is in the parliament, on the floor of the parliament, they give certain assurances. So those assurances will be monitored by committee on government assurances. Committee on subordinate legislation, that is delegated legislation. So you already know what is delegated legislation. That also has certain one committee. Committee on papers laid on the table. So what are the bills? What are the motions? What are the resolutions? Whichever is laid on the table of the parliament, that is, which is in front of the parliament, that is monitored by the committee on papers laid on the table. Also you have committee on welfare of SC and STs. That there is one more, and you also have committee on empowerment of women, and also you have joint committee on office of profit. This is also one committee. Also okay, these are the committees under committees to scrutinize and control. Scrutinize and control. Okay. So joint committees on office of profit. So this committee is important. So what does this committee do? So it recommends whether a person holding office of profit should be disqualified. Whether a person holding office of profit should be disqualified is mentioned by this committee, that is joint committee on office of profit. Next comes the committees relating to the day-to-day administration of business. So business advisory committee, who is the chairman? So speaker and the vice president in Rajya Sabha, they themselves are chairman of these committees. How to conduct the business on day-to-day basis is monitored by or the function is given by business advisory committee. Next you have committee on private members bill, committee on private members bill and resolutions. Private members. So private members means those who are not part of the government. Their bills also has a committee. That committee is Committee on Private Members Bills. Next is Rules Committee. What is Rules Committee? Rules Committee deals with rules of procedure. They deal with rules of procedure in both the houses. Next is Committee on Absence of Members. So if the members are absent over a prolonged time, this committee examines. Next, we have housekeeping committees. Housekeeping means you already know what is housekeeping. To maintain or to run the parliament, so all the facilities has to be properly arranged. So in the housekeeping committee, we have general purpose committee and house committee, library committee, and also on salaries and allowances, we have one more committee. So last is consultative committees. Consultative committees. So these committees are attached to various ministries and departments. Like department related standing committees, these consultative committees are also attached to various ministries and departments. So these committees provide a informal forum for informal discussion among the ministers and the members of parliament. So in DRSEs, it is mostly a formal type of setup. However, in consultative committees, there is a informal setup where the members and ministers can discuss the issues relating to that particular ministry or department. Okay. So these committees, the consultative committees, who constitutes it? It is the Department of Parliamentary Affairs, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. You have a Ministry for Parliamentary Affairs, right? So that ministry constitutes this ministry of these consultative committees. Okay. So the other department DRSs. So here consultative committees membership is voluntary, not mandatory. Okay. Next we will move towards parliamentary forums. So these three things are not very important, but they might ask. So what are the parliamentary forums? So we have in the committee, parliamentary committees are actually kind of formal setup, whereas forum is also kind of a semi formal kind of a setup where members come together to discuss issues on various aspects. Like we have parliamentary forum on water conservation, parliamentary forum on youth, parliamentary forum on population control, for parliamentary forum on global warming and climate change. Specific issues, specific parliamentary forums are there. Okay. So what are the objectives of these forums? What are the objectives of these parliamentary forums? So what are the objectives? Next we will discuss composition. So they provide a platform to the members to have an interaction with the ministers concerned. So like the consultative committees, via these parliamentary forums, the parliamentarians can discuss with the ministers on various issues. So they also have to sensitize the members. So suppose there is water conservation parliamentary forum. So it gives knowledge to the members about the importance of water conservation. That is also a function. Also they form a database. So water, climate change, water conservation, these forums keep a track of data in this particular area. In the particular area they are working. Next is composition. Composition of the forums. What is the composition? So all forums, all parliamentary forums are headed by whom? It is a prelims question. All parliamentary forums are headed by Speaker of Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha Speaker is the ex officio. What? He is the ex officio president of all parliamentary forums except except one forum, that is parliamentary forum on population and public health. So who is the head of the parliamentary forum on population and public health? It is the chairman of Rajya Sabha, that is vice president. Okay, except for that particular forum, every other forum it is the speaker who is the head. Okay. So each forum consists not more than 31 members. The maximum members is 31. Okay. So the duration is coexistence with respect to their tenure. Suppose a MP is elected for 5 years, or in case of Rajya Sabha 6 years, their duration is coexistence. That is, as long as they remain MP, so long they remain as a member of the parliamentary forum. So what are the functions of the forum? What are the functions? Okay. Parliamentary forum on water conservation. This particular forum deals with the conservation of water, like water pollution, water degradation. So and water, so shortage of water and also shortage of rainfall. So many other, even the concept of droughts and floods is also dealt by this parliamentary forum on water conservation. So they identify the problems with respect to water and also involve the members in these problems and bring out a solution. Likewise, you have parliamentary forum on youth, which majorly discusses with the issues of youth, how to utilize their potential, how to utilize the demographic dividend. Likewise, you have parliamentary forum of children and also parliamentary forum on population and public health. Likewise, many other parliamentary forums deal with specific areas of their formation. Okay. Next is parliamentary group. So what is parliamentary group? Okay, what is the rationale behind parliamentary group? So this parliament as a entity comes together and they connect with the parliaments of other countries. So the rationale behind forming the parliamentary group is to connect with the parliaments of the different countries. Okay. So we have Indian Parliamentary Group. It is called as IPG, Indian Parliamentary Group. This group connects with the parliamentarians and members of parliament of various countries. Okay. What is the composition of the group? What is the composition of the parliamentary group? So it is an autonomous body. When was it formed? It was formed in 1949. The year is not so important because this is a peripheral area, not a main area. So the Speaker of Lok Sabha is the ex officio president of the IPG. So for this body, it is the Speaker of Lok Sabha who is the head, who is the ex officio president of the parliamentary group. So what are the objectives of the group? Objectives and functions. So it promotes personal contacts between members of parliaments of India. First of all, it focuses within India. Within India, we have 545 plus 245 parliamentarians. A kind of personal relationship is tried to be established among these members. So they also study questions on public importance. Public importance questions are discussed in these parliamentary groups. So what are the functions? As I said, it acts as a link between parliaments of various countries. So suppose our parliamentarians go on a study tour or partying. So majorly, they say it is study tour. So when they go on a study tour, the other parliamentarians make arrangement for our parliamentarians. Likewise, parliamentarians of other countries. For example, after abolition of Article 370, the parliamentarians from Europe, they came to examine the issue. So they were hosted by our local parliamentarians. Okay. So they also carry out various seminars. They also carry out exchange information, and many other functions are performed by these parliamentary groups. IPU and CPA. What is IPU and CPA? It It is Inter-Parliamentary Union. It is an international organization of the parliaments. It is an international organization. IPG is Indian Parliamentary Group. It is Indian Forum. IPU is International Parliamentary Union. So it consists members of 153 parliament, 153 countries. Parliamentarians are members of this group. Okay. So it helps, similar function to parliamentary group. It helps to develop close contacts with members of other parliaments. Okay. So next is CPA. What is CPA? Commonwealth Parliamentarians Association. So Commonwealth countries. What are Commonwealth countries? Commonwealth countries are those countries which were under the rule of British colonialism. So after independence, they became a group. They became a part of Commonwealth. So your Australia, Canada, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and also many other countries, African countries, are a part of this Commonwealth. Okay. So Commonwealth Parliament Association, they organize various conferences. So they publish various publications. They also give travel facilities to parliamentarians. So this is all about the Commonwealth Parliament Association. Next comes your most important topic, Supreme Court. So, Supreme Court, when was it formed? So, during Regulating Act 1773, it has a provision of formation of court in the Bengal province. The 1773 Regulating Act had a provision for formation of a court. However, so it was Indian Supreme Court was established on January 28th, 2 days after the Republic Day. Supreme Court was established in 1950. Okay, Indian Supreme Court has a model in where it has a model in British court system, not the USA. USA has two types of courts. What are the two types of court? One is federal court, another one is state court. So federal court enforces federal law. What is a federal law? Similar to union law in India. So federal laws are enforced by federal court. Like it is similar to Supreme Court in India. However, Supreme Court in India enforces both the union law as well as the state law. However, in United States, the federal court only enforces the federal law, not the particular state's law. State laws are enforced by state judiciary, state courts. So every state has one state courts. Okay. So what are the articles? So which part under which part does the Supreme Court come? So part 5 is the part under which Supreme Court is discussed in the Constitution. What are the articles? The articles are from 127 to 147. 124 to 147 discuss about the Supreme Court in India, composition and appointment. What is the composition and how the appointment is done? So at present there are 34 judges. Recently 3 judges were appointed. One of them from Karnataka, Justice B.V. Nagaratna Madam. She can become the first woman CJI in India. She has the possibility of becoming the first woman Chief Justice of India. What is Chief Justice? So the Supreme Court has 34 judges, out of which one senior most judge will become CJI. So CJI are appointed based on seniority. Okay. So by time to time, the number of judges are increased. The recent increase was from 31 to 34. How the judges are appointed? So the judges are appointed by President of India. So that is at the outset. However, the recommendation is done by the judiciary itself. Judiciary itself gives the recommendations who can be appointed as a judge. So what is this system called? It is called collegium. So collegium consists of CJI plus 4 senior most Supreme Court judges. Totally 5 members. Give who can be appointed as a further judge in the Supreme Court. Okay. So here one term is important. What is this term? The term is called consultation. So the president can appoint the judges based on consultation with the judiciary itself. So earlier it was told in earlier phase, that is during 1950s, it was believed that consultation doesn't mean concurrence. What is concurrence? So whoever the collegium says, so the president has to appoint only that person. That means the president has concurred with collegium's opinion. However, this process between the president and the collegium is called as consultation. If the president agrees, it is called concurrence. If he disagrees, it is called non-concurrence. So this concurrence, consultation issue has run into controversy. So in the here many judges cases are important. So we have 4 judge cases. The first judge case, when was the first judge case held? It was in 1982. First judge case, 1982. What was held in this first judge case? In the first judge case, so the court held consultation doesn't mean concurrence. So the president can consult, however, he need not follow the recommendation. However, in the second judge's case, the court said no, consultation means concurrence. Whoever the collegium says, only that person can be appointed as a judge. So when was the second judge case held? It was held in 1993. So there is 2 more judge cases. So I spoke about second judge case, 1987. 1993, yes. We have one more judge case, 1998. That is third judge case. Third judge case. What was held in this third judge case? The court said that consultation. So the president consults the collegium and he has to adhere to what he has to concur with what the collegium says. However, one more addition was given earlier. The consultation was, the collegium means it was only the CJI. Okay. Now the CJI plus 2 judges. Now it is plurality of judges, that is CJI plus 4 senior most Supreme Court judges. So the sole opinion of CJI, it does not be held valid. If CJI takes the opinion of 4 senior most judges and then gives the opinion, so then the president has to concur. Okay. 4th judge's case. So this is a very important 99th Constitutional Amendment Act. So it was held few years back. So 99th Constitutional Amendment Act. What is it called? NJAC, National Judicial Appointments Commission. What this government did, so it criticized the judges, saying that the judges are appointing themselves. So there is no proper checks and balance in the separation of power. So whereas if the in the legislature, between the legislature and executive, there is checks and balance. The executive is checked by the legislature, and even the legislature is checked by the judiciary. However, who checks the judiciary? Nobody. So they said in the appointment of judges, the executive and the legislature should have a say. That is, the parliament and the government should have a say. Whereas this was this was given an institutional framework via NJAC. NJAC was headed by CJI plus 4 members. 2 members, 2 Supreme Court judges and 2 other were government appointees. However, this was overturned by the Supreme Court, saying that this hampers the independence of the judiciary. So you are hampering the autonomy of the judiciary. So this was declared unconstitutional, and this particular case is called as 4th Judges case 2015. Okay. Next is the question of appointment of CJI. Now CJI appointment earlier at the whims and fancies of the government. Now it is only the senior most Supreme Court judge. So senior most Supreme Court judge can only be appointed as a CJI, that is Chief Justice of India. Okay. Next is qualification and oath. So what are the qualifications to be a Supreme Court judge? So first qualification is he should be a citizen of India, similar to any other qualification. So there are many conditions as well. He should have been a judge of High Court for 5 years. So should be a judge of High Court for 5 years, and he should have been an advocate of High Court for 10 years. Advocate in some High Court for 10 years, or a distinguished jurist. So distinguished jurist means what? One who has excelled in the field of this jury or judiciary, that is with respect to the laws, various laws. So one who is an expert, a distinguished jurist, he can also be appointed as a Supreme Court judge. So oath and affirmation. So the oath is different from that of the President and the Council of Ministers. What is the oath? So the Supreme Court judge, who administers the oath? It is the President. Who administers oath to the President? It is the CJI. So CJI administers the oath to President. President administers the oath to all judges. All judges. Okay. So what is the oath of Supreme Court judge? So the oath is to bear true faith and allegiance in Constitution. You know what is that? To uphold integrity and sovereignty. You know also that to faithfully do the duty without fear or favor or affection. So without fear or favor, I am going to do the duty properly. That is the third point of the oath. Last point is to uphold the Constitution. Constitution has to be upheld by the judges. That is also one of the point. So next is tenure and removal. Tenure and removal. Okay. Tenure and removal. So tenure of the judges. So the Supreme Court judge holds office until 65 years. Until the age of 65, he holds office. Before that, he can be removed by the Parliament. The process I am going to discuss later. And also he can resign. He or she can resign. So till today, there are only 11 women judges in the Supreme Court. 11 women judges. Very disproportionate representation, and the first Supreme Court women judge was appointed in 1989. So till now there is no women CJI. That is why Justice B.V. Nagaratna Madam has some chance to become the first woman CJI in India, Chief Justice of India. So the next point is tenure and removal. So 65 years I have discussed. So how the judges are removed? So the judges can be removed by a order of President. However, before the order of the President, this order can be issued only after a address by Parliament is presented to the President. So how this address is presented to the President. So the grounds for removal. When can the Supreme Court judge be removed? One is proved misbehavior. If he has misbehaved, or incapacity. Like few years back, there was one judge who was caught up in some sexual harassment case. So I would not take the name. So he resigned, not impeached. He resigned. He was not removed by the parliament, whereas he resigned. So proved misbehavior or incapacity. These are the two grounds for removal of a Supreme Court judge. Okay. So what is the process? So the removal motion has to be signed by 100 members in the case of Lok Sabha, or 50 members in the case of Rajya Sabha. The motion, it is, you already know what is a motion, or it is an instrument via which the parliament function takes place. Okay. So 100 members or 50 members in Rajya Sabha should pass a motion. Then the speaker or chairman may admit the motion or may dismiss the motion. Once admitted, the speaker constitutes a committee, investigation committee. So the committee consists of whom? The committee consists of CJI of India, one more judge, and also a distinguished jury. If the committee finds the judge guilty, so once the committee finds a judge guilty, then this motion has to be passed by a majority, special majority, 2/3 plus half of the members present and voting. So only by special majority the judges can be removed. After which, after this is passed by special majority, the president signs a order removing the judge. Okay. This is with respect to the removal. Next is the concept of acting, ad hoc and retired judges. Acting, ad hoc and retired judges. So whenever there is a shortage of judges, or so first is the concept of acting CJI, acting Chief Justice. So whenever the Chief Justice office is vacant, whenever the Chief Justice is temporarily absent, is unable to perform duty due to some sickness, this acting Chief Justice can be appointed. Next is ad hoc judge. Ad hoc judge, when there is a shortage of judges. When there is shortage of judges, ad hoc judge can be appointed. Who appoints it? So the Chief Justice of India can appoint a Judge of High Court as a ad hoc judge of Supreme Court. However, he can do it only after taking the permission of the President. A High Court judge can be appointed as a Supreme Court ad hoc judge only after, by the CJI, only after taking permission of the President. Okay, next is retired judge. Retired judge can also be appointed as a temporary judge when there is shortage of judges. So he can request the retired judge of a high court to perform the duties of the Supreme Court for a temporary period. Here also he has to, see, the CJI has to take the permission of the, whose permission? Similar to the ad hoc judge, it is the permission of the President. Next comes the concept of seat and procedure. Seat means where does the Supreme Court sit? So the Supreme Court sits only in New Delhi. It doesn't have any mobile courts. However, it is a disadvantageous concept because in India, sorry. So in India, if the Supreme Court sits here, all the members. So it is disadvantageous for people from here, people from here, people from here, because the distance is too much. So there is a recommendation by recent Vice President, that is Sri Venkaiah Naidu ji, to have seats of Supreme Court at various places, at least one in south, one in east, another in west. So north, anyhow, Delhi is there. Okay. So what is the procedure? So who forms the procedure? It is the Supreme Court, with the approval of the President, can make the procedure. With the approval of President, the Supreme Court can make the procedure of the court. Okay. So independence of Supreme Court. This is a very important concept. So the Supreme Court in India has been assigned a very important role, right? It is one of the most powerful Supreme Courts in the world. In the entire world, if you take up some of the most powerful Supreme Courts, Indian Supreme Court is one of the most powerful Supreme Courts. So how the independence of, so according to the concept of separation of powers, who gave this concept? It is Montesquieu. So according to separation of powers, each organ of the state has to be independent, right? So with respect to this independence, the judiciary has to be more independent or more autonomous. Its power should not be impinged, or its power should not be taken away by any other organ. So how the independence of Supreme Court is ensured? So there are many ways of ensuring the independence. One is mode of appointment. So judges appoint themselves. So here there is no intervention of the judiciary, executive or the legislature. It is the prerogative of the judiciary to appoint themselves. It is the prerogative of the collegium to appoint the judges. There is no interference from any other organ. Next is security of tenure. Once a judge is appointed, he cannot be removed until the age of 65 years. So there is strong security of tenure. Next is fixed service conditions. Whenever the judge is appointed, his service conditions, that is his salary, his emoluments, the house which is given to him or her, it cannot be taken away or diminished during his tenure of work. Next is his expenses. Expenses of the judge's expenses, that is salaries, and also the expenses of the court, are charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India, which means they are not subject to yearly voting. Okay. Next is judges of conduct of judges cannot be discussed in the parliament. So how the judges conduct themselves, that cannot be discussed in the parliament. That also ensures the dignity of the office. Next is ban on practice after retirement. Once the judges retire, they cannot practice, they cannot appear before any court for any person within the jurisdiction of India. However, they can go outside of the country and practice. So next is power to punish for its contempt. So contempt of court, I already said, which is the act. It is Contempt of Court Act 1971, and which is the article? It is Article 129. These two provisions enable the contempt of court proceedings. Next is freedom to appoint its staff. CJI appoints the staff of the Supreme Court. There is no interference from anybody. Next is its jurisdiction. That is, the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court cannot be curtailed. However, the jurisdiction can be expanded. So that is one concept. Next is separation from executive. So there is a clear separation of power. That also ensures independence of the judiciary, Supreme Court. So, jurisdiction and powers of the Supreme Court. What are the jurisdictions of the Supreme Court? Okay. So, we have original jurisdiction, writ jurisdiction, appellate jurisdiction, advisory jurisdiction, various jurisdictions. So, what do you mean by original jurisdiction? Original jurisdiction means going to the Supreme Court directly. So, fundamental rights, if it is impinged, you can go to the Supreme Court directly. You need not go by the way of appeal. You can go directly to the Supreme Court and appeal, saying that your fundamental rights has been impinged. So, with respect to original jurisdiction, the concept is actually in detail. If you look at the concept, original jurisdiction means the federal court, that is the Supreme Court, decides the disputes between various organs, that is between the center and state and the states among themselves. So, being a federal system, the center and states can have disputes and the states among themselves can be having disputes. For example, your CBI jurisdiction, see, with respect to CBI jurisdiction, the New Delhi, that is Indian government, and the West Bengal government is having disputes. Likewise, with respect to states and states, Karnataka and Maharashtra are having disputes, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu are having disputes. So, with respect to these disputes, we can go to the Supreme Court. So, here no other court can decide. It is only the prerogative of Supreme Court to decide the center state issues and the state and state issues, behind the issues between the states and states. So, the high courts cannot decide in these areas. So, it is the exclusive jurisdiction of Supreme Court. Okay, that is with respect to the original jurisdiction. So, original jurisdiction does not apply in certain cases. In certain cases, original jurisdiction, that is what I say, I already said what is original jurisdiction. However, this original jurisdiction is not applicable in certain cases. What are the cases? So, any pre-constitutional treaty, before the constitution, any treaty was formed between the British and the princely state. In that case, original jurisdiction does not apply. And also, interstate water disputes does not come under original jurisdiction because there is separate tribunal that is formed. And also, matters referred to the Finance Commission. Finance Commission matters does not fall under the original jurisdiction. Okay, next comes writ jurisdiction. So, while discussing Article 32, I already said what do you mean by writ jurisdiction. So, how many types of writs are there? There are 5 types of writs. So, you already know it is habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, certiorari and quo warranto. These are the 5 types of writs, right? Okay. So, writs are issued both by the Supreme Court and High Court. However, the writ jurisdiction of Supreme Court is limited only to the enforcement of fundamental rights. However, the writ jurisdiction of High Court is unlimited. It includes everything, not only fundamental rights, but also other things can also be included under the writ jurisdiction of High Courts. So, what is a writ? You already know. Okay, next comes appellate jurisdiction. So, appellate jurisdiction means what? Appealing from lower courts to higher courts. Okay, so what are the conditions under appellate jurisdiction? So, appellate jurisdictions, appeals in constitutional matters, appeals in civil matters, appeals in criminal matters and appeal by special leave. So, what is constitutional matter? So, in constitutional issues. So, suppose High Court gives in writing saying that this issue, this particular case involves a issue of constitutional interpretation, then the appeal lies before the Supreme Court, right? Next is the appeals in civil matters. So in civil disputes, so in civil disputes, if the High Court gives in writing, High Court certifies that this particular civil case involves a substantial question of law. So similar to the constitutional matters, if the High Court certifies this particular case as a substantial question of law, that particular case can be referred to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court decides the issue of civil disputes. So next is criminal disputes. So in criminal disputes, so death sentence. So the issue of death sentence, and also there are two issues. There are two cases when the appeal lies between the Supreme Court. One is the High Court has awarded someone a death sentence. In that case, or a lower court has awarded someone a death sentence. So here there is one specific condition is there. So suppose a lower court has acquitted a person, right? A lower court has acquitted a person. So appeal goes to High Court. High Court reverses the acquittal and convicts the person to death sentence. In that case, the particular case is fit for appeal to Supreme Court. Okay. Next is in what other case can the criminal case go to Supreme Court? If the High Court certifies that this particular case is fit for appeal to Supreme Court. In that case also, the criminal case can be appealed to Supreme Court. Next is appeal by special leave. So here no condition is there. So it is the discretion of the Supreme Court. Whenever the Supreme Court finds whichever case, it might be constitutional matter, it might be civil matter or criminal matter. If by discretion, at its own will, if the Supreme Court admits a case, then by special leave means taking the leave of the Supreme Court, taking the permission of the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court admits the case, then the case is fit for appeal to the Supreme Court. Here certain conditions are there. It is a discretionary power. This special leave is a discretionary power of the Supreme Court. Nobody can direct the Supreme Court. Okay. So it can be in any matter. So next comes the advisory jurisdiction. So where is advisory jurisdiction? It is Article 143. So what is advisory jurisdiction? So the President seeks the opinion of Supreme Court. In what cases does the President seek the opinion of Supreme Court? In the cases on any question of law or fact of public importance. On any question of public importance, the President can seek the opinion of the Supreme Court. And also in the cases of any pre-constitutional treaty, suppose a treaty or agreement has taken place before the formation of Constitution, in those cases also the President can seek the advice of the opinion of the Supreme Court. Under which article? It is Article 143. Okay. So in what cases has the President sought the opinion? There are few cases given in your book: Delhi Laws Act, Kerala Education Bill Act, Beru Bariya Union Act, Sea Customs Act. So many acts the President has sought the opinion of the Supreme Court under Article 143. Okay. Next is the power of judicial review. Sorry, it is the court of record. What do you mean by court of record? Court of record means, so that particular court holds the judgments. So previous judgments are treated as the treated as a template, standard template. So previous judgments, for example, Golaknath case was treated as a template until when? Until Keshwananda Bharti case. After now, Keshwananda Bharti case judgment is treated as a record, is treated as a standard template. So it can be referred, it can be bought in, it can be referred, or it can be quoted in various cases that are happening today. That is, suppose a case happens in a district court, so that particular lawyer can argue in Keshwananda Bharati case, the Supreme Court has said like this, so you have to respect the judgment and give a similar judgment. Okay, so that is what is meant by court of record. So what all are involved in court of record? Judgment, proceeding, acts of Supreme Court are recorded. And also, court of record also means the power to punish for contempt of court. Court of record also means the power to punish for contempt of court. Okay. So when the contempt of court is done, so when any person, any act scandalizes the or lowers the authority of a court, scandalizes or lowers the authority of a court, or prejudices or interferes with the judicial proceedings. First is scandalizing the proceedings of the court. Second is interferes with the prejudices with the judicial proceedings. Next is your power of judicial review. So judicial review, you already know, it is Article 32 and Article 226. So Article 32, it is what? Supreme Court, and Article 226, it is High Court. Okay. Power of judicial review. Next is constitutional interpretation. In constitutional interpretation, the court gives so many doctrines. These doctrines are per se not very important in the prelims perspective. However, it is important from the mains perspective. You can quote these doctrines. However, prelims also, they might ask, what is doctrine of severability? What is doctrine of waiver? What is doctrine of colorable legislature? So there are the 13 doctrines given by Supreme Court. What is doctrine of severability? So recently this Cooperative Societies Constitutional Amendment Act. So multi-state cooperative societies. So the Supreme Court said it is unconstitutional because cooperatives fall under the jurisdiction of the state government. The parliament, without seeking the permission of the state legislature, cannot pass a constitutional amendment act. So it set aside a part of that constitutional amendment act. So it did not overrule the entire constitutional amendment. Only a certain part of that particular amendment was ruled unconstitutional. So this is called as doctrine of severability. That is, only a part. Suppose amendment is there, only a part of it is ruled invalid, not the entire legislation. This is doctrine of severability. Likewise, you have doctrine of waiver, doctrine of eclipse. What is doctrine of eclipse? So a law is there, one more law comes that eclipses the earlier law. Likewise, even this is holds good in the case of judgment. So the Golaknath case judgment was there, that was eclipsed by Keshwananda Bharti case judgment. So it also applies to the laws. LAWS. Next is doctrine of colorable legislation. So it says what you can't do indirectly, you cannot do indirectly. So if you cannot introduce a constitutional amendment by ordinance, you cannot do it by fitting that into some other bill. So like what it means does doctrine of colorable legislation means? So it means, suppose let us take the case of repeated promulgation of ordinance. So in the DC Vadva case, it is said unconstitutional to repeatedly promulgate the same ordinance again and again without any change. So here doctrine of colorable legislation can be used. How can it be used? So the court said the procedure of repeated promulgation cannot be done, right? So legally it is valid. However, certain things cannot be done directly. So what they do, this government employs indirect means. So indirect means repeating the promulgation of ordinance again and again without any change. So in that case, doctrine of colorable legislation can be given as an example. Likewise, you have doctrine of harmonious construction. So harmonious construction, the difference between fundamental rights and directive principles, both of which can be harmoniously constructed, that is, both of which can be together constructed without causing any issue, without degrading any particular part. Both can be harmoniously brought together. That is what is meant by doctrine of colorable legislation. Okay, likewise, there are many doctrines. So, other powers. What are the other powers of Supreme Court? It decides the issue with respect to President and Vice President election. So, Vice President and President election, any issue is there, it is decided by Supreme Court. And also UPSC, it inquires into the conduct of members of UPSC members. So, any issue with respect to their removal, they are guilty of misbehavior, who inquires? It is the Supreme Court. So, it has the power to review its own judgments. Supreme Court gives a judgment today, it can review its own judgment. Likewise, there are many powers of Supreme Court. You can go through in your book. So, last is the concept of Supreme Court advocates. Advocates of Supreme Court. There are three types of advocates. One is senior advocate. So, these are advocates who are designated as senior advocates by Supreme Court of India or by any High Court. They cannot appear without a junior, or they cannot appear in the court without a junior in any court or tribunal. So these juniors are advocates on record. Advocates on record means what? So they are on the record of the Bar Council. Bar Council, that is the Lawyers Association. Lawyers Association has the record of all the lawyers. So advocates on record are those lawyers who are in the record of the Bar Council. Next is the advocates on record. So these advocates can file any case before the Supreme Court. So without advocates on record, no case, no normal lawyer can go and, so suppose I am a lawyer practicing in Karnataka. So suppose I am not registered as an advocate on record of Bar Council. I cannot go and file the matter between the Supreme Court. There are other advocates as well. So there are three categories of Supreme Court advocates. Okay, next comes the concept of difference between Indian Supreme Court and American Supreme Court. So this concept is important when it comes to mains. In mains, what happens? There is a topic called comparison of constitutional provisions of various countries. Comparison of constitutional provisions of various countries. So Indian and American Supreme Court. Indian Supreme Court, what does it do? Its original jurisdiction I already discussed. So its original jurisdiction is confined to federal cases. However, in American Supreme Court, it is original jurisdiction not only covers federal cases but also naval forces, maritime cases and many other things. So appellate jurisdiction covers in Indian Supreme Court, appellate jurisdiction covers civil, constitutional, criminal. However, appellate jurisdiction is confined to constitutional cases only, where America, USA. So we have the tendency of calling USA as America. Next is Indian Supreme Court as advisory jurisdiction, whereas American Supreme Court doesn't have advisory jurisdiction. That is, they cannot advise the president. So in Indian Supreme Court, the scope of judicial review is comparatively less. However, American jurisdiction, the scope of judicial review is too much. Anything can be done. So the jurisdiction and powers of Indian Supreme Court can be enlarged by Parliament. Parliament can enlarge the jurisdiction and powers of the Indian Supreme Court. However, so in the USA, it cannot be enlarged. Whatever the Constitution say, that is the end of the jurisdiction of American Supreme Court. So what are the articles? Articles with respect to Supreme Court. So it starts from Article 124 and goes up to Article 147. So the important articles are, you can note down. So the important articles are Article 131, that is original jurisdiction, 132 appellate jurisdiction, 133 and also 136, 137, 139, 143 is important and 142 is important. So this article 142 is very, very important. Article 142. Under 142, the Supreme Court can do anything. So to do complete justice, there is one provision called to do complete justice. To ensure complete justice, the Supreme Court can even get into the arena of executive as well as the legislature. So whenever Supreme Court, so I am going to discuss the concept of judicial overreach, judicial activism. So there we will see how the 142 article has played its part. Okay, so this is all with respect to Supreme Court. So in judiciary, there are various concepts. One is the concept of judicial review, I have discussed, but let us go in detail. So in judicial review, actually this concept is taken from where? It is taken from United States. Judicial review concept is taken from United States. Okay. So what is the meaning of judicial review? It is the power of the judiciary to examine the constitutionality of legislative and executive orders of both central and state governments. So this is the definition. Okay. So there are three types of judicial reviews. One is judicial review of constitutional amendments. Next is judicial review of legislations of parliament and state. And third is judicial review of administrative actions. These are the three judicial reviews. So importance of, so we will discuss the scope and importance of judicial review. So first we will discuss what is the scope of judicial review. So whenever executive order means government action or the legislation, that is the law passed by the parliament or state legislature, if it infringes on fundamental rights, if it is outside the authority of the body which framed it, and if it is against the constitution, the concept of judicial review comes into place. So without judicial review, the parliament will have unlimited powers, the government will have unlimited powers. That is why the concept of judicial review is very, very important. Next is the concept of, so we have discussed the scope. Next is the importance of judicial review. Why judicial review is needed? So to uphold the constitution, judicial review is needed, because without judicial review, constitution can be messed up, or constitution can be impeached by the legislature. So to maintain federal equilibrium, that is the balance between center and states, judicial review is important. That is federal equilibrium. To maintain the federal system, judicial review is important. Next is to protect the fundamental rights. To protect the fundamental rights also, judicial review is important. Okay. So we have seen the importance of judicial review. So what are the constitutional provisions of judicial review? You already know the articles. So the important articles are Article 13, Article 32, Article 131, 132, 133 and Article 226 under Supreme Court. So many of these articles speak about judicial review, right? Okay, next we'll talk about the 9th schedule, the issue of 9th schedule. What is the issue of 9th schedule? So this is 9th schedule, where it is? It is in the Indian Constitution. So here the Article 331B is important. So what used to happen? The Parliament used to enact so many laws. So this was many times held invalid by the judiciary. So in order to protect the laws made by the Parliament, what they did, they brought in this concept of 9th schedule. That is, they will include these laws, certain laws in the 9th schedule, and say that whatever the laws in the 9th schedule cannot be challenged by the judiciary. So whatever the laws in the 9th schedule cannot be challenged by the judiciary would be set by the Parliament. So this is the concept of what? 9th schedule. So what does Article 31B say? So this is the article which saves the laws. So Article 31B saves the laws, LAWS laws in the 9th schedule from being challenged. So from being challenged, which article saves? It is Article 31B. However, in IR Coelho case, this case is very, very important. This was also asked in few years back in UPSC. So IR Coelho case, which year? IR Coelho, which year? 2007. So this this Parliament used to put all these articles in the all the laws in the 9th schedule and say that the judiciary cannot review it, or judiciary cannot monitor these laws. So what the Supreme Court ruled? Post Keshwananda Bharti case, that is post 1973, whichever law, whichever action is included in the post 1973 24th April, that is post Keshwananda Bharti case, whichever law, whichever order of the government is included, majorly the laws included in the 9th schedule, they are subject to judicial review. So only the acts done before Keshwananda Bharti were saved. Post Keshwananda Bharti, that is the innovation of basic structure. Post that, whatever the law included in the 9th schedule, they are subject to judicial review. No law can be put a blanket saying it is beyond judicial review. Okay. So the concept of the case of IR Coelho is very, very important. Next, we will move towards, okay, here there are certain concepts. So the same thing, whatever I discussed till now. So here there are some concepts like rights test, essence of the right, many things, not very important. Whatever I have thought, if you just remember that, that is more than sufficient from the examination point of view. Okay. Next is the concept of judicial activism. So we will discuss the concept of judicial activism. So what is meaning of judicial activism? So this was brought in by, this was actually originally seen in USA. Okay. This was originally seen in USA. However, later on in India, two judges innovate this concept. It is Justice P.N. Bhagwati and Krishna Menon. These two judges, sorry, not Krishna, yeah, Krishna Iyer. Three judges actually, Justice Krishna Iyer, P.N. Bhagwati and Chinnappa Reddy. These three judges, Chinnappa Reddy, Krishna Iyer and P.N. Bhagwati innovate the concept of judicial activism in India. So what is judicial activism? So judicial activism is suppose the government is not doing the duty which it is supposed to do, or the legislature is not doing the duty which it is supposed to do. So what they do? The judges take up this on their own, suo motu. They are going to take up this and and ensure that justice or the particular work is done. This is what is meant by judicial activism. So what is the meaning of judicial activism? Definition. So judicial activism denotes the proactive role played by the judiciary in the protection of the rights of citizen and in the promotion of justice in the society. So this is the definition of judicial activism. So it expands the individual and societal rights. Okay. Next is judicial review and judicial activism. So what the relationship between relationship of activism with review. So in review what happens, whatever the law already formed, that is reviewed by the Supreme Court or the judiciary. However, in activism, not only the law, even suppose some law is needed and the legislature has not formed the law, then the judiciary can pitch in and actively propose such a law should be formed. That is judicial activism. So these two concepts are closely related. So within the concept of judicial review, judicial activism is already there. So judicial review forms the outer circle, judicial activism forms the inner circle. Okay. So you got to know the difference. So review is review of the acts which is already passed. However, activism is actively pursue some case to ensure justice. Suppose poor people are not getting rations, and then the Supreme Court actively pursues the case and directs the government or the authorities to give food to that particular poor person. Okay. Justification of judicial activism. So why it is justified? So most of the time government fails to do the duty which it is supposed to do. Also citizens impose trust in the judiciary in order to get justice. That is why judicial activism is needed. So via judicial activism, judges also participate in the building of the society. So these are the justifications of judicial activism. So activators of judicial activism. Who are the activators? Who pursue? Who are the enablers of judicial activism? It is the civil rights activists, NGOs, people rights activists, consumer right groups. So all these civil society organizations are called as activators. Next is apprehensions of judicial activism, that is the disadvantages or the dangers of judicial activism. So there is, so what are the apprehensions? What are the dangers? One is ideological fears, that is the judiciary is taking over the functions of the judiciary is taking over the functions of whom? The government and the legislature. That is first ideological apprehension. So next is management fears. So are they doing justice by doing this? So by getting into judicial activism, are they doing the actual justice? No, because that is outside their power. And also legitimate fears, that is, are the judiciary is the judiciary right authority to do the one administrative actions? No. So they don't have the legitimacy. And also democratic fears, that is the representatives, MLAs or MPs are elected by the people. They have the authority to do laws. What authority does the judges have, having themselves appointed by themselves? Okay. Next is the concept of judicial activism versus judicial restraint. So what is judicial restraint? Judicial restraint means it is the opposite of judicial activism. So that is, judiciary is not going to cross the boundaries, cross the threshold which is demarcated for judiciary. It is not going to go into the area of executive. It is not going to go into the area of legislature. So in these areas, judicial restraint should be exercised. So these judicial activism and restraints are philosophies which originated where? In United States. So judicial restraint has to be exercised. Why? Because the judiciary doesn't have expertise in administration, and as I said, they are not elected. Elected authorities have the right to form laws. They have the right to govern. What right does the judiciary have? So Supreme Court has made certain observations in these directions. So they said judges must know their limits and must not try to run the government. So this is what is said by Supreme Court. It is also quoted from the Spirit of Laws book by whom? Montesquieu. From the book, the Supreme Court has quoted instances and saying we have to maintain separation of power. So also the Supreme Court has said we ourselves have to set our house right. There are more than 3 crore cases pending. So they themselves are not efficient. So when they themselves are not efficient, what right does they have to preach efficiency to the administration? That is also criticism of judicial activism. Okay. Last concept for the day, we are going to discuss public interest litigation. So it is called as PIL. So PIL means, what is PIL? Suppose poor people, let us take the example of some poor people who are not getting access to food under the free ration scheme. So they are not knowledgeable, they don't have the literacy to approach the judiciary and get the things settled. So what they do? So they just simply suffer. So some civil society organization, some NGO on their behalf, on the behalf of the poor people, go to the Supreme Court and file a PIL. PIL saying that they are not getting the rights which they are entitled to. So please direct the relevant authorities. to give them sufficient food. So this is an example of PIL. So you have seen in the movie of Johnny LLB, Jolly LLB, there also the concept of PIL is used very much. So if you have watched the movie, you will know the concept of PIL. So what is the meaning of, so here also who is the enabler of PIL in India? It is Justice Bhagwati and Justice Krishna Iyer. These two persons are the enablers of PIL in India. It is also originated in USA. However, in India, these two people, these two judges have enabled it. So the PIL is also called as social action litigation. It is also called as social action litigation. It is also called as social interest litigation or class action litigation. So in these three ways it is defined. Next is the concept of meaning of PIL. What is the meaning? So I have already discussed the meaning in brief. So here the concept of locus standi. Locus standi is very, very important. What is locus standi? Suppose I am an affected person. I have been affected by some issue or some deprivation. So if I myself go and file a case in Supreme Court, then I am following the principle of locus standi. That is, I am affected, I myself go and file a case. Suppose I am affected, somebody else goes and files a case on my behalf, then locus standi is not being followed. However, when it comes to the concept of PIL, this concept, this theory of locus standi stands diluted. That is, locus standi doesn't hold good. Okay. So I have already discussed what is the meaning of PIL. So what is the purpose of PIL? The purpose of PIL is to maintain rule of law, effective access to justice and uphold fundamental rights. So what are the features of PIL? Certain features are, so it is a tool of free legal aid to the poor. So these organizations enable free legal aid to the poor. So also it has a interest of many people, that is, it has a public interest. So it doesn't have any private interest. So it is undertaken to address a particular issue, address a particular public injury or public issue. Any public issue is there, then PIL is undertaken in order to address that. So these are certain features of the PIL. Also, one more feature is PIL enjoys a greater degree of flexibility. When flexibility comes, when the issue of PIL comes, judges take up the issue in a flexible way. They won't be rigid. Scope of PIL, where all PIL ban can be used. So certain issues, bonded labor matters, it can be used. Neglected children, it can be used. So against police excess, custodial torture, PIL can be used. You have seen the movie Jai Bhim by Surya. There, earlier judge K. Chandru, how he took up the issues of tribal against the police torture. So also riot victims, there also the PIL can be used. What are the principles of PIL? What are the principles of PIL? So Supreme Court has evolved certain principles of PIL. So the Supreme Court can entertain under Article 32 and Article 226. So Supreme Court entertains under Article 32, High Court entertains under Article 22-26. Under these two articles, it can entertain the PIL. So it admits only the issues of public importance. So the principle is public importance. Public importance principle is is important here. Okay. Next is when it is against injustice against the large number of people. It is against the injustice of people, against the people. So here locus standi, locus standi principle stands diluted. These are certain principles of PIL. So what are the guidelines for admitting PIL? So the Supreme Court also has given certain guidelines. So it must be genuine. So first guideline is the PIL must be genuine, and it should not have any publicity interest. So they also call PIL as publicity interest litigation. However, any publicity interest, it should not be admitted. So the court must verify before admitting the PIL. Next is only when the court satisfied that public interest is involved, then only it must admit the application. So that is only public interest petitions has to be admitted. Okay, so we have discussed the concept of PIL till now. Tomorrow we will start with state government, that is governor. So thanks for bearing with me. Hope you found the class full very useful. I have been just covering the gist, that is only the major topics. I am not going in detail because of the paucity of time. Please use this course for revision of your polity before the exams, and revise the concepts, and freshers use this course as a means to get hold of the various concepts. So let us meet tomorrow. Thank you. Jai Hind. Take care. Thank you. Namaskar.